Hey guys, welcome back to TCG Bros. Today we're going to be doing a deck profile over Yosenju. I recently took this to an event, and this is kind of the after event, basically just the after event version. I did tweak it quite a bit after the event just based on what I saw, what my matchups were, and kind of just like a generalization. So this actually is pretty decent in the current state of the meta, like with a lot of Monarchs, a lot of Kaiju, a lot of Cosmo, a lot of stuff like that. So I really enjoyed playing this deck at regionals, and there were a few card choices that pretty much alone cost me games. Like this here is a stack of pretty much cards that you think are good in Yosenju that really hurt you more than they help you. So we'll go into that a little bit later on. But let's go ahead and start with our main deck. This is our extra, which we'll go into once we get through the main. And I'll explain card choices just kind of as we go. So start off with Yosenju Kama 3. Your basic searcher. When another Yosenju inflicts battle damage, you search any Yosenju card to the hand. Triple Yosenju Kama 2. I was playing this card at 2, but I decided after the event that if you're going to play Yosenju in the current state, it really needs to be 100% Yosenju monsters, because it just bricks your hand playing a Card of Demise build. If you're using other stuff, and more likely you'll have to discard it anyway. So I was saying, you just want to play regular Yosenju. So 3,1. This is really good, this format, to bounce stuff face up to the hand. Like you can bounce a domain and break the lock with that. And then 1 Tsujik to push for game. And that is actually all the monsters I played in the whole deck. And that's because this deck really focuses around Card of Demise. So that's pretty much the main reason. Like you want to be able to get everything out of your hand and try to not Card of Demise into very many Yosenjus, so that kind of aids in not doing that. Next we have Triple Tenki. This is like a basic thing for every Beast Warrior deck. It's just a searcher and a booster. Triple Pot of Duality, because you're just normal summoning most of the time. Like you will overlay, but if you're overlaying, it's going to be later on in the game. So 2 Card of Demise. I would actually now recommend running this card at 3, but I don't have a third one yet. And this card is busted, like the best card in the deck by far. You really need to run this at 3. Okay, so as I was saying about Card of Demise, this card is super busted in a few decks, but a lot of people don't understand how to use this card properly. You need to use this in a deck, in my opinion, that is major floodgates, and that's because you obviously don't want to throw away half of your hand after you +3 off of dropping this card with no cards in hand. So this build, having a lot of traps and spells you can resolve immediately, is what makes it perfect for playing. And even with Twin Twisters being so prevalent right now, they really most of the time struggle to overcome overwhelming back rows. So I saw that a lot. There was a few times, like, people hit me multiple times with Twin Twisters at the regional that I just came from, and Twin Twisters never did anything that really cost me a game. It was all stuff that I outlasted and bounced back from. So, and also, speaking of Twin Twisters, you want to play double Twin Twister. This is basically just to assure you that somebody does not Solemn Strike you, because that really hurts. And you don't want to, you want to hit this, and it's very useful. And also, if you like Card of Demise, and then you had this set, and you're gonna have something like, say, you already normal summon and change your Yosenjus, and you hit another one, you just flip this, toss it so you don't waste it, and you knock out some macro. And even if it's just 1, it's still better than you discarding your 1. So our one-offs, we've got a Dark Hole, Dimensional Fissure. I opened this on somebody at the regional, and this card just straight blows people out. Like, most decks, assuming it's not like Pendulum where they go to the extra deck, it just like ruins their life. And if they don't have Twin Twisters, normally it's like it's something you cannot overcome if you open it. Because that game I opened D-Fissure and I set 5 back row, which was like Chaos Trap Holes, Solemn Warning, and like a couple other things. But it was a crazy hit because I think I actually opened this 3 traps and a Card of Demise, and I think I hit Card of Demise into a Yosenju and like one other card that I set and discarded the rest. One Upstart. You want to swap this for a 3rd Card of Demise. That's why this Upstart's in here. And Raigeki. So, not 2 Dark Holes and Raigeki. And a lot of people used to play Fossil Dyna, which is in my deck of cards that I would suggest not playing in Yosenju. But that does us for all of the spell cards in the entire deck. And like I said, for a rogue deck, I would probably classify this as the most competitive rogue deck of the current format, just because it plays a lot of things that this format really struggles with, and being a floodgate deck is also why the Card of Demise Cleavefort builds are super successful right now. So next we got the Triple Mirror Force. This is why you don't play Fossil Dyna, because it's redundant at this point. You have a Dark Hole, a Raigeki, and Triple Mirror Force, and this is because you see a lot of Monarch, and sometimes like you don't have Raigeki or Dark Hole in hand, and this will basically buy you a 1 turn, assuming it doesn't get hit. So I was actually playing Wabaku in the event, and after playing like a few Monarchs and just coming up against things that had really big boards, I decided that this would be better. So, I mean, obviously against stuff like Pendulum decks, it's going to send a lot of stuff back, but at the same time, most of the time, when like Draco Pals or something like that comes up with a big board, this will get rid of like Ignister and some of the bigger stuff at least for you. That way you can focus on like bouncing stuff with commas and other effects like that. Chaos Trap Hole. This card is good for a format. It's super good against Cosmo and against Monarch. Sorry. Really great card. That card turned up for me. I blew some people out by hitting that. 2 Yosenju's secret move, because a lot of the time you'll notice like people will let you resolve your first Yosenju's effect after it's normaled, and if they don't negate the first summon, if they try to like torrential you or something on your last Yosenju, you can flip this and negate it now because they didn't stop your first summon. And then one-offs, we have 1 Vanities, 1 Bottomless, 1 Torrential, 1 Warning. Those are the one-offs, and then I've got a couple other interesting texts that I'm going to show you that I think are actually really good this format. And that's, I mean, if you have a contestation to whether they're good this format, it's understandable, but by my experience, had I had these 5 cards I'm about to put up here in place of some of the other traps that I was playing that didn't turn out to be as useful, I would have won, just because every single game of this regional I had my opponent down to really low life points. So this kind of like solves that. And so that's it for the one-off traps and for some of those, but it's not for all the traps. It gets better. Triple Dimension Wall. Dimension Wall is Magic Cylinder, but non-targeting. So, Cosmo, you can hit Cosmo players with this card, and it still works. So, it's if you're going to take battle damage from an attack, you can flip this, and they take the damage. And if I had had this, or Magic Cylinder, in the majority of my matchups, when I had a Wabaku or something, it would have been game for me, and I would have won. It was just a card choice, and this honestly just works better because you see a lot of people like you're facing Monarchs, but unless somebody's playing Mobius, which no one hardly ever does, and if they do, it's at 1, and you can normally negate its summon. People are going to attack into your back row thinking it's stuff to negate summons, and you're going to hit them with these, and it's more than likely going to cost them the game. And like I said, even with Twin Twisters being at 3, and people playing it a lot, there's only so much somebody can do to outpace you on so much back row. Like, they're gonna, even if they Twin Twisted you every single time, I've had people Twin Twister me and just fail horribly, and sometimes it works out. Like, there was a time I Card of Demise at the regional into 2 Tenkis, set both, and then the end phase, he flips Twin Twisters and ends up wasting a Twin Twisters on 2 set Tenkis that I have. So sometimes it works out. But for the extra deck, 2 Cowboy. This is because if you get 3 or 4 Yosenjus on board and hit with all of them, it's not enough to normally take your opponent down to 0, so you just Cowboy for game. Did it multiple times at the regional. That card wins games. You want to have it at 2 for sure. 2 Chidori because it's really good for hitting back row, and it really can give people a dead draw, and that's what makes it the best, like, for a win, because you just return a card to the top of the deck and then they draw a total dead draw, because it's something that's like unusable if you use it right. And one-offs, we got Castel, Steelswarm Roach, Gagaga Samurai, that's for the OTK, Emeral, if you can ever get into Emeral, it's rare, but Ragnazero against BA, Abyss Dweller against BA, Dark Rebellion for the OTK, this for going for game, even though you don't play any, you can control face-up spell cards like Tenki and stuff, so even though it's not, like, it doesn't have to be a field spell, so even if you have a Tenki face-up, you can still go into that. 1 number 39 Utopia, and 1 Photon Papilloperative. And if you're going to cut any of these, we got 5, 9, and 14. The reason there's 14 here is because this does not have a Utopia the Lightning, and Utopia the Lightning is majorly good, so you really need to have a Utopia the Lightning in this deck. It is broken, super good card, just to be able to overlay it over top of Utopia, so you really need to have that. And then I'm going to go over some very, very quick cards not to play in Yosenju this format. Fossil Dyna, because you'll inevitably hit it at a worst time possible. Like, you'll dead draw into this at a time in the game where you really need something clutch like a Raigeki or something that could actually benefit you. Because you'll draw this, you'll have other Yosenjus in hand, and then you're basically screwed. Had it happen to me twice. Dead drew this late game, blue game for me. 2 Valor. I mained this at the event, didn't face enough Monarchs for it to be worth it. Most of the time sided it out, and it ended up being pretty much useless, because I would rather just hit a trap, set the trap, and let them run into a magic cylinder or a dimension wall. It's a good card, sided in versus Monarchs, don't main it. Because I was between maining Maxi and that, and it would have been better for me to main Maxi, but I still didn't like it. Soul Drain, this is a side deck card. I mained it, never hit it at a beneficial time ever. Triple lose a turn. Biggest mistake of the regional for me. This card blew games for me that I would have had, but lose a turn basically just puts you and your opponent into like a, it puts you into like a grind out, because with lose a turn it's basically like who can outlast who without special summoning. But if like this game just prevents you from going into exceeds that are critical for like game winning plays, like I could go into Utopia the Lightning and then like attack for game, but I have lose a turn on board, and it just like ruins everything. So in certain varieties of Yosenju it's good, but in this one it's horrible. 2 Maxi. Maxi is good. Side deck card, not a main. Prohibition, I actually sided this, and it kind of worked for me a little bit, but the problem with Prohibition is Twin Twisters. Like, it's not a reliable enough resource. You can use it, but you have to be able to call really well, and the best thing you could ever do with Prohibition is end up hitting 2 of them at the same time, because then you would just call Twin Twister and then like another really critical card, and then they'd have no way of ridding you of that Prohibition in the whole game. 2 Magic Deflector. This is like something you should side deck at 2 for Yosenju for sure, because this will prevent you from getting Twin Twistered for 1, and it prevents you from like domain lock and all that stuff, assuming you don't have Kama in hand. And then I actually mained a Soul Charge, and this was my biggest mistake at the entire event, was maining a Soul Charge, playing 3, lose a turn, because obviously that's a boneheaded idea and you should not do it because it's stupid. So those are cards that I would not play in Yosenju. It's my personal word of advice. But anyway, the event went pretty well. I blew out a few people, got blown out by a few people based on bad card choices like hitting Fossil Dyna, hitting Soul Charge, hitting Baylor at a poor time. But anyway, that's all for this one, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you soon with some more YuGiOh videos.